Hi, I believe you're doing fine. My name is Reuben Kimani. I'm the CEO Username Investment Limited, and this is Real Estate in Kenya with Reuben Kimani. Today, we would like to cover a very important topic in the lives of our people in Kenya. I believe you have had so many land cases in our courts, so many property cases in our courts, where people did not disclose the property they owned before they passed on. And I will shock you, statistics, I have some statistics here that show that 25 billion worth of property has not been claimed, as reported by Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority, 25 billion. Probably these are people who never left will. These are people who never indicated the details of their next of kin, the contact, places where they live. And that these are people most likely who had property secretary, such that no one knew whether they passed on, and their relatives, their spouses, their children are left in a lot of trouble. This is a topic that touches especially on our Kenyan people. There are people who don't see the importance of feeding the next of kin detail of living wills. I also know that people are also, everyone is afraid to die. And the other reality is the fact that no one thinks that they can die today, tomorrow. Only God knows, but it is very important for you to leave next of kin details. I'd like to highlight who a next of kin is for clarity. This is basically a person, a living relative who can be entrusted with your property when you are left. Basically, maybe it might be a spouse, it might be your kid, but it might be a close person who can be entrusted with your property when you are left. There are many advantages of having next of kin. You'll be asking, why should we bother writing or indicating our next of kin details? There are many advantages, and I think this is a point where, as a Kenyan people, we really need to look at this issue and find a way of changing the way things are. And I will highlight all of them and indicate the advantages of each. One of the good thing about having an next of kin or leaving those details is that your hard-earned investment will be protected in your absence. In February of this year, the government announced that they'll be naturalizing thousands of acres of land in Coast Region because they could not find people who could identify themselves as owners or people who could identify themselves as what we call administrators of those properties or next of kin for those pieces of properties. These are basically properties that maybe were acquired by people who never left next of kin details. Maybe they were acquired secretly, and maybe they passed on, or maybe they left the country. So if you don't leave your next of kin details today and you pass on, it is there's a very high likelihood that the government will naturalize your property. It may be your shares, it may be your thousands of acres, hundreds of acres, may very prime property in Nairobi. So it is very important for you to leave your next of kin details. The next benefit of having next of kin details, they'll have power to be able to do things when you are not here or when you are sick or in case something happens to you. Imagine you have a very prime property in Nairobi CBD, maybe worth $1 billion shillings, or just say a normal, maybe another property is your Chama, maybe 5 million. Then you get into an accident and you are admitted, maybe in ICU, and your family does not have any idea that you have such a property and you are dying. So all you have kids who need school fees, maybe you are very ill or say you're also in a condition where you cannot be able to say you have such a property. Such details like next of kin come in handy. The person who has been next of kin know you have a property, and maybe they can liquidate it, pay for your hospital bills when you're incapacitated, pay for your children's school fees when you can't. So it is very important to list those next of kin detail. And remember, once you do that, they'll know that they are next of kin. And we will handle that part of disclosure, because you may have a next of kin, a will, and you don't say who the executor is. You have a next of kin detail and you don't tell the person that you are the next of kin. That advantage is that it helps determine inheritance rights in case a person passes on without a will. If you go to our courts today, we have so many cases. I would say thousands of cases of people trying to fight out for properties. I believe you might have heard of such cases. This one that took 27 years, and I believe it is still ongoing, of a large Kenyan family, where they are fighting for thousands of acres in Kiambu, worth billions of shillings. Every day, someone's go to court, and they are doing this because the will was not left. The person who passed on with all this property, they never left the will. So by having your next of kin details written, one of the things that you'll do, you'll help us reduce the number of court cases in our country, which is a good thing. The other thing is the fact that you leave your family well organized and in much peace. You don't want, when you are gone, your family is left struggling, fighting for property, taking each other to court. That's not something that you would wish for your generations to come. So it is very important to have a will. The fourth good reason why you should have your next of kin details is that we have, you'll help in utilization, especially of land as a resource in our country. We talked about thousands of acres in coast region. I want to believe there are also thousands of acres all over the country and very prime properties that have been left without anyone. You can imagine the families of those people, most likely they are suffering. They cannot be able to pay school fees. They may not be able to access quality health care, and yet their parents or their guardian left property worth millions of shillings. The other thing is the fact that land is a resource. It is a factor of production in our country. You can farm, you can produce. People are doing real estate. Imagine the thousands of acres that are not being used. They are left idle for years. They can't be used because no one knows who owns that property. The owners might have passed on. So basically, by not writing your next of kin, what you are saying is that the effect is usually very disadvantageous. First, your loved ones, your spouse, your kids, your relatives, and also to our economy as a country. We are left with properties that cannot be used, not because they are not prime, not because they cannot provide value, because we don't know who the owner is. The other topic I would like to cover in detail, maybe in our next episode, is how to choose next of kin. You may not be able to choose anyone to be a next of kin. You cannot just assume that your kid can be your next of kin. We will be able to advise you step by step, or considerations that you can put in place to be able to know who can be your next of kin, maybe in the next episode. The last thing I would like to cover, which is very important, as I said, you may have written your next of kin. As you invest, maybe when you come to username, in your bank details, when you buy shares, or any other thing, even in employment. But there is another part that is very important. It is disclosing the next, to the next of kin that they are the person that you have selected. There are many people who might have next of kin. They have given their names, their details, and all those pieces of information, but they have not notified them. What will happen is that you may pass on the next of kin is written there. Maybe the organization that holds your property may not be so keen in disclosing those details. You also subject that organization, maybe the lawyer or any other person. We are all human beings, and you may find someone, especially lawyers, I know you may have had such where they have been left with the next of kin details, but they find a way of conniving and maybe taking over that property. You subject them to, I would say they are vulnerable. So it is very important, if you have an next of kin, you have given their details, please notify them. And this also applies to wills. For wills, there's a laid down procedure and lawyers can be able to advise that. But for next of kin, you need to tell someone, you are my next of kin. Because also, remember the company that has those details or the lawyer is not allowed to disclose those details. It is only you who can be able to disclose details. And they will not disclose because they have to protect your interest as a person. So you may ask yourself, why are we trying to advise this? We are land companies. We have thousands of customers who are with us. And at some point, when early in the life of username business, we realize that we may have so many properties that are left in our hands. We have titles for them, but no one is claiming them. So as a responsible organization, we decided to ensure that every person who comes to username, you must write your next of kin details. In any eventuality, before we give you your title deed, we are going to contact the next of kin details, the next of kin who has been specified. We also are a very professional organization, and we cannot compel, especially our customers, to disclose their next of kin to whoever has been selected. But you would advise them, please, if you have written your next of kin, not just in username for a piece of property, even for shares, bank details, bank accounts, and for employment, please let the person know that they are next of kin. It will make things clear. If you are very sick, they might pay the school fees for your kid. If you are gone, they'll put that property into good investment. And maybe your kid will be educated via that kind of a fund. So as I close, you have covered so many things, the advantages of having next of kin. I believe you are convinced, and I believe maybe as we speak now, you may not have bothered to decide whether you would feel that part where you ask, please write your next of kin. It is very important. I believe one day all of us will be gone. No one thinks or no one feels, no one sees like they can pass on tomorrow, if I may say it like that. But please have those details. Of course, they can't, maybe they can't kill you if you have to say that, but have them because they resort to a good relationships in your family and also a good productive use of all resources and assets in our country, which is good for our economy. I believe this topic has been helpful to you. In our next episode, we'll cover how to select your next of kin. Thank you so much. This is Real Estate in Kenya. Please subscribe. Please leave your comment. Engage in this channel. Thank you.